A little bit about yourself for maybe some of the people who have never heard of you, or like have only heard so much about you. Maybe your background and the instruments that you've made.
Yeah. Well, I designed instruments because I was improvising on piano, and I was mainly piano, and I would think of these great things. I never studied formally, so my whole thing was you think it in your head, then you do it, right? And sometimes you can do a physical thing, and what I was finding was on keyboard I was thinking wonderful things and doing wonderful music, and then watching it crash and burn like a plane that fell out of the sky and exploded because I was stumbling and fumbling over the keyboard.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, God, there's got to be a better way to do it than this. And I thought of one. And then I spent a long time. I thought, oh, well, yeah, that's so obvious. Sure, I'll buy one of these. And I looked everywhere to buy one, and it wasn't anywhere. So I had to make it. And then when I realized that people had not actually done this, then I realized that it was something major.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, it's music. And I wasn't counting on certain reality aspects of music. Music affects people's emotions, so it's a hot button issue with people. And actually, most people tend to be very conservative when it comes to music. I mean, people go, "Oh wow, Jimi Hendrix! It's an electric guitar."
Yeah, and that's like the furthest extent of how they take sounds.
Well, and I mean, to them, it's just like astounding. An electric guitar, whereas if it's an electric refrigerator. Because there were refrigerators, before electricity, they bring you ice cube and put it in there. And then they go, wow, you mean we can plug this into the wall? But, people didn't make that big a deal of it. Okay, it doesn't require an iceman. And but with music, when you innovate something new, it's just impossible to get people to accept it. You get people to accept almost any invention in almost any field. So it's been a long time trying to get the powers that be, and believe me, I've talked to some of them to realize what this is. Because this is a fundamental change in the way of looking at music, actually. The way the notes are arranged, it changes the language of music. And what it does is it creates a new way to look at music. And basically, the long and the short of it is, or the medium long of it is, that anytime you have one sound source, then things tend to be arranged in a line. Like I got one string, so I go like this. I got one flute, so I go like this. So anytime you have one note, a line is going to be in there somewhere. The mistake is that when you go to a multiple note instrument, people are still thinking a line. And sometimes they have to, like say a guitar, which is 6 lines, right? So that it gives you more than one note, right? It can give you up to 6. But the keyboard, it's silly. They've continued this line concept, even indenting the line in a completely moronic and insane pattern that has been driving people insane for centuries and set back music literally a couple thousand years, But the thing is that you've got this line. Well, the line is no good when it comes to more than one note at a time, A line is great for one note at a time. It absolutely sucks for more than one note at a time. You want to go, yeah, sure, the line's great.
Yeah.
One note at a time, real close little runs. But see, on my thing, I'm doing what would look on the keyboard like this. That note, that note, that note, that note, that note, very rapidly.
Yeah.
You couldn't do this. And I'm just sitting there going, And so what happens is that there's the linear arrangement, which is for monaural music, one note. Then there's the non-linear arrangement, which is what I've got, or the two-dimensional arrangement, planar, if you want to get all scientific. It's planar. It's a plane, not a line, but 2 dimensions. When you go to 2 dimensions, then you can represent harmony. Physically, That is, it's easier to play. Mentally, that is, it's easier to talk about and figure out music theory and key signatures and chords and all that. And emotionally, much, much easier to feel the music and know where to go on the basis of feelings. That, more than any other thing, is the case. And so then I designed a bunch of instruments, 10 in all. And people do, they look at the instruments, oh wow, you've designed a lot of instruments. Well, I see it that the array is like chemistry. How many chemicals can you design? Well, do you have the next 100,000 years to list them? I mean, the thing is that you could design an infinite number of array instruments based on this principle. But my idea was to get the world started, to give them a teaser, to give them a buffet, to give them a taste. Design a series of instruments that cover all the bases. I wanted a series of instruments that cover all the basic possibilities. So even though we've got a whole continent to explore, at least we can divide it up into west, east, north, south. Here's some suggestions. So for example, I've got one array instrument that's nails. And you bow these nails. You put dancer's rosin on your fingers and you bow them like they were a violin, but I can bow like 20 or 30 of these nails simultaneously, so I can produce these huge chords that you can't even produce on a pipe organ with this little nail thing. And it's a rubbed instrument. It's, there's no principle. We don't even think like this. Yeah. So I wanted that in there. The Mbira, which you saw, I love the Mbira. And we don't even have, what? I remember being a kid and thinking, why aren't there any hand-controlled music boxes? And so, these are all basic things. And what I'm trying to do is stimulate people's imagination so that they begin to produce some of these hundreds of thousands of musical instruments that are possible. And also the idea is these 10 instruments have been designed to fit together perfectly to create one synthesizer, in a sense.